Get in on the action with Sports Interaction. We got the NBA and NHL conference finals and soon-to-be finals. Are you ready? Baseball in full swing.
Oh, that's what they do in baseball.
Yeah, that's right.
This guy.
Competitive odds, best live and play, and more ways to get into the game. Make your next bet with Sports Interaction. Head to sportsinteraction.com/STPN or download the app. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. We do have a new general manager in Toronto. And I think...
Who is it?
It's Brad Treliving.
Whoa. Cool.
It is cool. It's cool.
I don't know. He had a decent enough press conference.
I like the fact that his dad, Jim Treliving, said, you never get tired of being proud of your kids. Congrats, Brad, on being the new next GM. And then he tweeted at the Leafs and said, if you need a backup goaltender, I'm 83, but I'm always available, which I think is nice.
Shut up, Jim.
He's adorable.
Still a fresh wound, Jim.
He's adorable.
Learn the room, Jim.
All right. I want to ask you this. Can we be over that?
No.
Why aren't we not over that? There are still people tweeting about that, and I'm like, I'm over that.
No.
It didn't, Kyle wasn't cool with the way things were. He submitted a contract offer that said, hey, if you'd like to retain me, here's how I think it could work best. The
I
Leafs
thought
said,
you were talking about David Ayres.
No, I'm not talking about David Ayres. You're not over that either.
I was like, why would I ever get over that?
I think at a certain point, it's like, okay, it's not going to happen. It's over.
I mean, it's a fresh wound.
But is it fresh, though? It's 2.5 weeks old. Like, at a certain point, we got to move on. I've never seen... Listen, I get Kyle Dubas was a good guy. I get he ran a good ship around here. But I, for one, am excited. Because we enter an era of change and chaos. And this could be great. This could be terrible. But at least we know it'll be interesting.
What I really... Here's what I think was encouraging about that press conference. Remember I talked about how it's bad when you fire a GM, a new guy comes in and he completely undoes everything the previous GM did. Like, that's not a situation that you want, right? Because even if the guy does a good job, he's going to spend at least 18 months undoing all those problems, right? Dubas has some things he needs to undo.
Yep.
In Pittsburgh. Like that's
well, we'll get into that later. That's coming.
That's tough. Like I feel like even Dubas's harshest critics wouldn't say he did a bad job.
No.
Like,
how could you?
He didn't get over the hump, but like they were a really good regular season team and et cetera, et cetera. And what I liked is Jim Treliving, Brad Treliving came in and was very complimentary of the Leafs.
Yes.
And what they've accomplished. And I liked his anecdote about, Sheldon Keefe has had back-to-back 115-point seasons as coach. And when he first got to Calgary, he inherited Bob Hartley, who I think then won Coach of the Year.
Yes, and he was there for 2 seasons.
Right? So, he talked about a lot of the things that the Leafs do well, and they're doing better at checking and everything. So, like, he talked about this team isn't in dire straits, and then he also went into specifics about the things that they are doing well or improving at. So, like, let there be no confusion about Treliving coming in and being like, we need more big, truculent lugheads or something like that. It's, he just needs to make a better team. He didn't commit to trading any of the core four.
He did commit to signing Austin Matthews.
He committed to signing Austin Matthews.
Which is the right thing to do.
That's the only one, though. That's the only one. So he didn't commit to trading any of the core four. He didn't commit to keeping the core four. He did commit to keeping Austin Matthews. He committed to trying to keep Austin Matthews. He didn't even commit to actually keeping him.
You know what I mean? Read the quote?
Go ahead.
He said, Austin is one of the elite players in the world. We're not talking about a good player in the league. We're talking about an elite player in the world. Getting to Austin is a priority. That's priority number one.
There you go.
I mean, listen, I'm at the only, like, you would have to be crazy to think it would be something else, right? Of course that's it. He did talk about how he said he wants to be protective of the players, especially like the core four. He's like, I'm fiercely protective of my players, but this can't be about the core four. This is about the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's not about 4 players or 2 guys or 1 guys. It's about 23 guys that we're going to have in this organization.
This is not Philadelphia. This is not where it felt like the Flyers were punishing their roster for not being good enough. And we're going to hire John Tortorella and he's going to be a pain in your ass. And then play time is over. This isn't that. This is just a different set of eyes. I was going to say a different vision, a different path. It's not even that. It's just a different set of eyes. So, am I over the moon that Dubas is gone? Not really, but I think he's pretty happy he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He got a promotion. He's the president of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's Shanahan's equal, right? If there was a meeting of all the presidents, they're going to meet face to face, and it's going to be awkward as hell. But they're going to be equals. Shanny's president of the Leafs. He's president of the Penguins. What's done is done, and I think it's one of those things where you keep receipts and you remember what happened, and this goes on Shanahan's record.
Mm-hmm.
If Treliving doesn't work out, if he does a bad job, Shanahan should be fired before he is.
He's a rare president that has hired 4 different general managers, or 3 different general managers. And I mean, he fired the last crew too. He fired the first crew coming in, he fired them all too. Like he fired Nonis. So he's had 4 now GMs underneath him. And
notably, I know we didn't love the job that Claude Lazelle and Dave Poulin did, but he also kind of sort of allegedly ghosted them.
Is that what happened?
On their way out? Dave Poulin talked about...
What did he say?
Oh, I didn't speak to Shanahan for the last several months or whatever that he was there. And there's, rumors going around that some people in the organization are being spoken to, others aren't, right? So if this doesn't work, it's squarely on him. Squarely 100% on him. I will barely even utter the name Brad Treliving.
We need to rethink the president position, I think, in multiple sports now, because Masai Ujiri really started it within the MLSE organization, where the GM is no longer the one who calls the shots, it's the president. Like Bobby Webster is the general manager of the Toronto Raptors, but if any moves need to be made, it goes through Masai Ujiri. And I think Brendan Shanahan looked across the hall and he said, that's kind of the way we're doing this with pro sports now, where the president is the more general manager role that we think about 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you look at Jim Rutherford in Vancouver. Jim Rutherford is the quote GM that we think about the GM position being, but he's president. Like they have a general manager, but all decisions go through Mr. Rutherford.
And this has been the interesting thing about Dubas not having a GM, and everyone's theorizing like, oh, who's he going to hire? And Frank Saravalli said Cam Lawrence could be a nominee, but I think Dubas is more than comfortable just handling it himself, right?
So you missed the press conference, parts of it, but
on purpose.
For
the show.
So Dubas spoke about that, and he said he'll be handling the general manager duties until at least mid-July.
And we know he knows how to do that because he's been one.
He's a general manager, and also that's what the president does in 2023. These newfangled presidents, the ones who are going in the roles now, they look at themselves as the decision makers. It's not, unless ownership is hiring specific business people to handle the business operations, and then the business person hires a general manager to handle the hockey operations, which is kind of like what we have in Philadelphia. Where the president who reports to Comcast is sort of a business guy and not necessarily the hockey guy.
Reports right to Comcast. Just move down the hall.
The president is now the GM. So Shanny is responsible for these decisions.
Dubas has been a GM. Shanny hasn't.
Shanny,
I'm not comfortable with Shanny.
No,
Hold on,
but Shanny has.
Yeah, he has.
That's the role he's been playing.
All he's done is said yes or no.
That's the general manager.
You have to rethink what you think about a general manager.
Well, at least in this situation. And Shanahan, by the way, dismissed that over the press conference.
I don't doubt that he did.
He said Treliving was brought in. He said dismissed whispers that Treliving was brought in to be subservient to a boss between ownership. Basically, and this is in, I think, Luke Fox's article here, something the ambitious Dubas no longer must do in his newfound presidency with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Treliving will hold the final say on hockey calls, according to Shanahan. He said, just like Dubas and Lou Lamoriello, quote, ultimately, the decision has to be made by the general manager. That's how I've always operated. That's how I continue to operate. And I think Brad is a collaborative person.
Okay,
but ultimately,
we know
I really do feel the responsibility has to come from the general manager, so that doesn't change.
So that
Did
means
his nose grow during that whole
yeah,
statement?
that means nothing to me because we know it's not true.
It was just going on. It might poke CJ in the head. The nose is growing so big.
Just knock him on the
Mr.
forehead.
Pinocchio up there lying.
It's not my theory that's not true either, guys. It's not true. Dubas did not have the final say on hockey decisions.
No.
It's
Well,
not.
if he did, Brendan Hagel would have been a Leaf.
Yep.
Yeah. So Brendan Shanahan is the ultimate decision maker. Do you see how this all comes back to him? Ultimately.
Oh, I think everybody sees it.
You can't cry over spilt milk, right? So Dubas is gone. So Brad Treliving's the new guy. If Treliving does not succeed, Brendan Shanahan must be fired before Brad. At least at the same time.
Right.
You're the guy. You're the guy. You know everyone's uncle, how they were like, oh, that fucking kid doesn't know how to make a hockey team.
Yeah.
Let's completely ignore the guy who hired him. Oh, this Brad Treliving, there's a haircut you could wind your watch to. You know, if the Leafs don't get it done, if they continue to fail the way they have failed, it's directly 100% Brendan Shanahan's fault. If they win, Legends Row.
Oh yeah.
Don't give a shit. Legends Row.
Whole
I don't
team.
care that he never wore the uniform. Legends Row.
Justin Hall.
Justin Hall.
Legends Row.
Legends Row.
Bro.
I do want to say that on my Sports Interaction bet paid out. I put $2 down on who will be the next general manager for the Leafs, Brad Treliving.
Oh,
was
yeah?
the pick,
He was the favorite.
and I won $4.40.
Oh, no,
baby.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Woo! I think that's pretty good. And by the way, there's lots of odds in the Dangles doozy section we're going to get to a little bit later, especially for the Stanley Cup final. But I just wanted to brag about my big win.
Yeah. So
No, I think
it's
I think that's the thing, right? And so it's not like Brad Treliving could have sat down across from Shanny and been like, Shanny, whatever it is you did with Dubas in terms of the power structure, I need that to change. He's probably like, no, I'm happy it's the Leafs. Let's go.
we need when people quote that Shanahan thing, Brendan Shanahan said Brad Treliving will have the final decision on all hockey decisions, comma, end quote, which we know isn't true, period. That's responsible reporting. It's not true. Anyway.
I don't think CJ wrote his article with that in
No,
there.
CJ didn't write this
He
article.
should have, because we know it's not true.
Treliving has also been texting. He obviously reached out to Judd Moldover, who he has a good relationship with. He also was texting with Mark Giordano, who was the captain for him a long time in Calgary. And he said it's good to see him still playing at 75. He's funny. I don't know, man. I found him charming.
I
Yes.
1,000% agree.
And I think so the what we've heard around from reporters and stuff, and we heard this from Julian directly. He said he's a really great guy. He said he was sorry to see him go.
Yep.
I'm sure, man, Brad Treliving must have cut quite the contrast to Sutter, who, Eric Francis openly reported that people were afraid of.
Yeah.
Like that people didn't want to talk to him because he was so mean to them. Like Brad Treliving must have been like a Care Bear compared to that.
Treliving had just the right amount of aw shucks in his intro without being hat in hand
Yes.
and being like, hey guys, I know the other guy was really popular and he got fired and I'm replacing him, but I really thought his press conference went about as well as a press conference can go.
Yeah,
Ultimately, he hasn't done anything
It's
yet.
day one. You can only take so much from
Exactly.
it. And one thing that Julian said in particular, Adam, I'm very happy you brought that up, was how available Brad Treliving was to media members. Like Julian was only there for a year, but he said he had a lot of conversations with him, and that's not common across all general managers, who are willing to talk to the media and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think for all the Dubasites who are so upset that he left, we got to remember he didn't win anything. It's not like they're losing somebody who was like super successful here. And with Brad Treliving, he got off on a great foot. It was a great press conference. And let's see how this goes. Maybe he can change culture a little bit and actually win something here. I don't know. I'm very hopeful for the future.
I also want to say that I think that, if, let's say, and I really hope this happens, let's say the Leafs win the Cup this coming year. There will be 40 different articles on every website that it was really Dubas that deserves the credit.
No, don't do that.
And
The most
Don't do that.
I think they'll be right because a lot of it, a lot of this team has been assembled by Kyle. Now, Now, does that mean we give all the credit to Kyle? No. I do think, though, that if they win with the core, let's say they win with the core four, I think Dubas gets a, you got to give him a nod for that, don't you think? He kept them together.
No, you know who gets a nod? Dave Nonis for making the team bad enough to get those picks.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
The Toronto Maple Leafs
Good
have
point.
10 unrestricted free agents this summer. 10!
UFAs.
10 UFAs!
And it's too bad Nonis isn't in charge to overpay them all.
Every win here on out,
No, that's Brad's job.
Oh, yeah.
Dubas doesn't get any credit for any of these wins. He's not here anymore.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
No, but it does. No.
It's a different situation too. There was one very unique situation. And that's when Brian Burke was fired like a week and a half before the 2013 season began. Mm-hmm. That team was his.
He built a team and then he was fired.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So everyone was like, Dave Nonis did it. What the fuck? No, he didn't. He acquired Ryan O'Byrne at the trade deadline. That's all he did. Mm-hmm. This was Burke's goalie, Burke's forwards, Burke's defense. All of it was Burke's. This is June. It's very
Dubas's.
different.
It's Dubas's.
No,
I don't like that.
I'm just saying, I just want you to know that this is what's coming.
there's already been transactions allegedly since Brad took over.
Yep.
Simeon Jurek-Achintsev
It's going back to Russia.
sounds like he signed with Torpeda Nizhny.
I wasn't even going to bother trying to pronounce that. I'm so glad you know how.
I bothered and I fucked it up.
There you go. I think. Listen, I know that people are mad about Dubas or whatever. Listen, I don't think. Here's when I think of Kyle, and I would like to stop talking about Kyle so much in the context of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Happy to talk about him as the Penguins guy, because he is the Penguins guy. But when we look at this, I do feel like, and I think if you're being honest with yourself, you could feel like, unless you are literally a disciple of this man, the Leafs could use a fresh set of eyes. Is that hard to say?
Why not?
They have had incredible success in the regular season, but let's not pretend they're winning President's trophies. They're not. They're not. But they're not. And then let me finish this point,
Sure.
and then jump in. But the postseason results, I'm sorry, guys, and I think you're with me on this. If you're a Leaf fan, unacceptable.
Yeah.
Completely happy to have given him another shot at it, Dubas, for sure. But I'm also not against a fresh set of eyes. And you know what? People were giving me shit about saying that the Tyler Toffoli trade wasn't actually that good. I'm like, man, he's been really freaking good. And yes, he gave up a first, a fourth, and a fifth for Tyler Toffoli. Or yes, he signed Huberdeau at the top of Huberdeau's value, whatever. I look at his wholesome view, this guy, I don't know. I don't see a bad Flames team. And when that team rebounds this coming year with mostly guys that Brad Treliving, I almost called him Jim, rebounds and plays well with mostly guys
Brad's team
that he brought in. I mean, it's gonna look good on him, don't you think?
It's Dubas' team. It's Brad's team.
It's Brad's team.
I think it's important to note with the Calgary Flames missing the playoffs this past year that it was odd.
Yeah,
We're
it's
all
a
like,
story.
oh, that's odd.
If they got a little
save.
bit better goaltending,
A fucking
for
save.
like not even for any amount of time,
A couple
for like
overtime games.
3 games,
Even that.
If they just get a little bit better goaltending, they're in the playoffs.
Yes.
And maybe Brad Treliving.
And people are like,
GM.
why did they sign Markstrom? Well, he had come off the most unbelievable run with the Vancouver Canucks. He was so good that he convinced Canucks ownership and management that they were good, and they weren't.
Well-
and then he goes to Calgary, has a bad year, has an incredible regular season last year, 2 years ago, and now bad, and then another bad season.
Okay. What would you rather be? Well, this is a tough one. 38, 27, and 17 with 93 points, or 42, 32, and 8 with 92 points. I guess the question comes down to, what is the bigger number, 93 or 92?
93 would be the bigger number.
Yeah, well, that's the amount of points the Flames had. The Panthers had 92.
That's right.
Isn't that fucked?
It's fucked.
That's not fair.